What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today let's get started with Islam Makhachev versus Jack Della Maddalena next. Jack Della Maddalena surprised many tonight at UFC 315 by shutting down the wrestling game of Belal Muhammad to take the welterweight crown. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel. But now, the new welterweight champion is going to face a challenge on a whole other level, namely Islam Makhachev. Unless you've been burrowed deep down in a cave for the last couple of months, you know that for weeks, there's been speculation about whether Ilia Topuria would fight Islam Makhachev next. Makhachev has repeatedly said that he wants to challenge for the welterweight title, but not if Muhammad, his buddy, was the champ. Well, more recently, Topuria pretty much confirmed that if JDM took the welterweight crown at UFC 315, El Matador would be facing Charles Oliveira next. That's because Makhachev will move up to 170 to challenge the new welterweight king. Ahead of UFC 315, Dana White also acknowledged that is the plan.
For Dana, Ilia Topuria did an interview a few minutes ago where he said the winner of this fight is going to determine whether he fights Islam Makhachev or Charles Oliveira on International Fight Week. Can you confirm that that's the stakes attached to this main event too?
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts right now, and yeah, that's pretty accurate.
And what about the lightweight king? Well, Islam also signaled that was indeed the plan. However, he also made it clear that he will not be vacating the lightweight title. This Saturday's main event will define what my next move is. But regardless of outcome that fight, I'm not going to vacate my lightweight title. We might get real contender there. And finally, the lightweight division's current #1 contender, Arman Tsarukyan, had also reported he was waiting on the results of the UFC 315 headliner. Islam will either stay at 155 or move up. As soon as he makes up his mind, it'll be clear what's next for me. I would like to fight some big names like Oliveira, Gaethje, Topuria, Islam. So based on these various reports and statements and the results of UFC 315, it looks like we'll see Topuria and Oliveira throw down. Although Makhachev just fought in January and submitted Renato Moicano, don't be surprised if an interim belt is on the line. And as far as a date for JDM versus Makhachev, that'll likely depend on JDM's post-fight medicals. While the Aussie didn't appear to have any serious medical issues following the fight, he was definitely bruised and banged up. After the fight, Islam Makhachev reacted to JDM's win on social media by saying, "Time to become a double champion, inshallah, let's go." Then, during JDM's post-fight interview in the Octagon, JDM talked about the Makhachev fight with Daniel Cormier and said, "It's a beautiful challenge, he's pound for pound #1, I'm gonna get it back for Volk." Islam heard the interview and fired back on X by saying, "You are not Volk, I will show you different level, keep my belt clean." JDM was asked about Makhachev's comments during the post-fight press conference. This is what he had to say.
Islam's already tweeted at you a few times, and like the most recent one, he says, "You're not Volk, I'll show you there at different levels, keep my belt clean." Do you have any response to Islam?
No, come get it. Come get it.
Later on in the night, footage surfaced of JDM on a phone call with Dana White after his fight. JDM asked White, "Makhachev next, right? In Perth?" To which the boss man responded with, "We'll get this figured out." This morning, Islam Makhachev's coach, Javier Mendez, appeared on Submission Radio to talk about the Islam versus JDM fight. Can he take Jack down? Absolutely, he can take Jack down. Can he outstrike Jack? Absolutely, he can outstrike Jack. But is it wise to outstrike him? I feel we can, but it may not be. It may be a better deal to do what Belal should have done, and that's something I know Islam will do. Garry also reacted to the results of UFC 315 with the following video to his social media.
You've got the new champion, Jack Della Maddalena, the Aussie, great performance, but sloppy. The rumour is Islam Makhachev is moving up to 170, and if he does, then all of us welterweights have to take a step back and give the man the respect he deserves. But if negotiations don't go so well, then you've got a tall, blonde Irishman who's ready to take over the UFC and get that belt, and I will smoke Jack Della Maddalena. I'll box the ears off him.
As all of this JDM Islam talk is happening, Shavkat Rakhmonov sent a message to JDM and reminded everyone that he's truly next for the belt. He went on X and wrote, "Congratulations to JDM. It was great performance after long layover and injuries. You know I'm the real challenge at 170. Sooner or later, my time will come." Who do you think will win between Islam Makhachev and JDM? Let us know in the comments. Concerns rise for Jon Jones after footage. Jon Jones and Nate Diaz are currently filming Russian Tough. The show officially started filming yesterday, and it already looks like Jon Jones is enjoying himself a little too much. The show is being filmed in Thailand, and Jones was spotted in the streets riding passenger on a motorcycle, grabbing the guy's hair as he took off. Fans are concerned considering Jon has a past with intoxication, and it seems that he was under the influence while recording the video. Here's the clip.
My team has global.
Do you think we're never getting Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall? Let us know in the comments below. Dana White releases fighter from the UFC. After coming up short at UFC Kansas City last month, Jimmy Flick has announced the UFC has given him his walking papers. Flick took on veteran flyweight Matt Schnell at the event and lost the bout via unanimous decision. The defeat was Flick's second in a row, as last June, the respected grappler dropped the decision to Nate Maness. More recently, it was reported that Flick has announced via his Facebook page that the UFC has let him go. MMA journalist Adam Martin also reported the news, but Martin noted that he thought the UFC could have given the flyweight one more chance. Pour one out for the brick. Even though he lost, his fight with Matt Schnell was fun, and I would have given him one more. Do you agree with Martin? Although Flick has lost 4 of his last 5 bouts, he was not that far removed from a submission win over Malcolm Gordon in January of 2024. If you're not a hardcore fan, you may have forgotten or didn't know that Flick shocked the MMA world in 2019 by retiring. How so? His retirement came after he submitted Cody Durden with a flying triangle in what was Flick's UFC debut. You don't see too many fighters hanging up the gloves after scoring a highlight reel finish in their first UFC fight. Following his shocking retirement, Flick told the MMA community this in a video posted by The Corner and the Casual on Facebook. "The UFC is not my dream anymore. It's hard to explain, it brings tears to my eyes, but the UFC is not looking out for me. My wife's looking out for me. My kids are looking out for me. That's what I want. I want to be their father. I want to go to work every day and come home with my family. I want to come home to my little girls. I want to spend time with my wife. I don't want to be the next Conor McGregor or the next Demetrius Johnson. So tonight, I step into this cage tonight and tell everybody that I'm retiring from mixed martial arts. I'm going to pursue other goals in life that make me more happy than fighting." Do you think that we'll see the 34-year-old ever fight again? What's next for Valentina Shevchenko after UFC 315? Valentina Shevchenko remains the UFC's flyweight champion after defeating another top contender. So what's next for the legend, who is likely in the final chapter of her career? It's a good question. Early on at UFC 315, it looked like Shevchenko might score an early stoppage, as she battered and bloodied Manon Fior's nose and controlled much of the action. But the determined Fior battled back and began to control extended periods of the fight by working her clinch game against the fence. Ultimately, however, Shevchenko did more damage and emerged with the decision win. So who could be next in line? Earlier in the night, Natalia Silva worked her way to a UD win over the former champion, Alexa Grasso, and the win could put her in title contention. Another possibility is that the UFC will wait to see who wins the May 31st fight between Macy Barber and Erin Blanchfield. If Barber wins, she could conceivably get tapped for a title shot. But given that Silva just defeated a former champ, she likely has the edge on Barber if she gets by Blanchfield. What do you think? Who do you think should fight the legendary Shevchenko next? UFC fight updates. Now let's take a look at some UFC updates. After taking out Bo Nickel in memorable fashion at UFC Des Moines, Rainier de Reeder made it clear that he wanted to face one of the top dogs in the middleweight division next, and he got his wish. Yep, the UFC confirmed that de Reeder has been booked to fight one of the greatest middleweights of this generation, Robert Whittaker. The fight was initially reported by Setanta Sports and will headline the UFC's July 26 card in Abu Dhabi. Evidently, fake news has become real news. All that aside, this will mark the first time Whittaker has fought since he had his teeth smashed from a nasty face crank courtesy of Khamzat Chimaev. That fight took place last October. It goes without saying that this is a crucial fight for both of them. If RDR wins, he'll move his UFC record to 4-0, and the former one champ could move into the top 5 rankings of the 185-pound division. For Whittaker, the former champ needs a win to ensure that he remains in the title shot mix. The renowned fighter is just 3-2 in his last 5 contests. Who do you see winning that fight? And speaking of the UFC Abu Dhabi card, Sporty recently reported that flyweight contenders Asu Almabayev and Ramazan Temirov will throw hands at the event. Almabayev is looking to get back on track after he was stopped by Manel Kape in his last fight. That loss snapped Almabayev's 17-fight winning streak, but it was marred with controversy on account of a painful-looking eye scrape Almabayev incurred moments before the fight's final sequence. Meanwhile, Temirov, who wasted little time, demonstrated that he's the real deal at 125 since arriving in the UFC. In March, Temirov recorded a unanimous decision win over Charles Johnson to extend his win streak to 11. And AG Fight recently reported that strawweights Piera Rodriguez and Ketlin Souza will throw down at UFC Vegas 108 on August 2nd. Rodriguez recorded a UD victory over Josephine Knudsen in her last fight, which went down in December. Souza, meanwhile, last fought in February and lost to Angela Hill via split decision. The strawweight is also 3-2 in her last 5 fights. And the UFC's June 14th card in Atlanta, Georgia has picked up a promising bantamweight fight as Ricky Simon and Charles Jourdain will throw down. The veteran contender Simon ended a 4-fight losing skid in February by taking out Javid Basharat. Jourdain last competed in November when he submitted Victor Henry in round 2 with a guillotine choke. Jourdain was coming off back-to-back losses to Sean Woodson and Gene Silva before that, and he's gone 3-2 in his last 5. Alexander Volkanovski sends a warning to Movsar Evloev. It remains to be seen if Alexander Volkanovski and Movsar Evloev will indeed fight next, but the featherweight champion recently had a warning for the undefeated contender. Volkanovski reclaimed the featherweight crown in April by handing Diego Lopez a unanimous decision loss. Leading up to the bout, Volk said several times that he'd call for a fight with Evloev if he became champion again. The key reason being that the Russian fighter has gone 19-0 to date in pro fights, and that includes 9 victories in the promotion. The expectation is that Evloev will get tapped to fight the Australian legend next. In a recent interview, Volkanovski was asked about the fact that a fight between him and Evloev is like a movie script, the idea being that it pits a legend against an undefeated Russian like Evloev. The interviewer even joked that Evloev just needs a big scar on his face to make him even more menacing. Here was what Volk had to say, while acknowledging he intends to give Evloev a scar in the fight. To take that 0, I want to take a 0, right? Younger, undefeated, you know what I mean? I'll give him one during the fight. Then we'll use the photo before and afterward. But I think for the legacy as well, getting someone undefeated would have been great to take the 0 of Topuria, but obviously I didn't get to do that last year. Even if for some odd reason you're not a Volk fan, you have to admire him for wanting to face the best of the best in the division. Especially when you consider that in the case of Evloev and Topuria, we're talking about guys who are younger than him. Topuria, who knocked him out in their 2024 fight, is just 28 years old. But do you see Volkanovski taking Evloev's 0? What's next for Belal Muhammad after UFC loss? Belal Muhammad's welterweight reign turned out to be a short one. So what's next for the now former champ? At UFC 315, Muhammad was competing for the first time since last July, when he dominated Leon Edwards en route to a unanimous decision victory. While he showed a ton of heart and determination against JDM and kept coming until the final horn, ultimately, JDM inflicted more damage and took the fight. Given that this was Muhammad's first loss since 2019 and that he had gone undefeated in 11 straight, there's no question that Belal will remain at the top of the division. Accordingly, he will likely be booked for a scrap with another top contender. Further, because all signs point to JDM fighting Islam Makhachev in his first title defense, the UFC will likely tap the top contenders to fight in the interim. This could mean that we see Sean Brady or Shavkat Rakhmonov booked for fights, rather than have them remain on the sidelines until what could be 2026. So would we see Rakhmonov booked to fight Muhammad, or Brady get a chance to avenge his 2022 stoppage loss to Muhammad? It is possible, but given that Muhammad is not a massive star and has not always buzzed the masses with his fighting style, the UFC might not want to risk having him eliminate Brady or Rakhmonov as top contenders. Could we see, say, Colby Covington fight Muhammad next, on account of their feud? Who do you want to see Muhammad fight next? And do you see him working his way back into the title fight at some point? Regardless of who Belal fights next, just minutes after his fight against JDM, Dana White posted a picture of Belal's face showing off the injuries he sustained from the JDM fight. Belal can be seen showing a split upper lip, which will most likely need surgery. Dana captioned the image saying, "What a war, broken nose, orbital, and split lip. #respect." And before we continue, we have a favor to ask. Help us reach 200,000 subscribers on MMA Zone by subscribing and turning on notifications for daily MMA content. Seriously, we rarely miss a day. Belal broke silence after losing to JDM at UFC 315 by saying, "Allah's plan is the best plan, alhamdulillah for everything. Thank you to all my supporters. I've been here before and I'll be back." Robert Whittaker believes that Belal lost the fight with JDM because he wanted to prove a point and strike. Here's what Whittaker had to say.
I expected more takedowns. Okay, now it's easy for me to say on the outside. Okay,
sure.
We can look in and say, oh, well, I don't know how he was feeling or what had happened to him during the fight. I don't know how he felt, but from the outside, was it the 3rd or 4th round when he mixed in his striking and his shots?
Yeah.
When he mixed in the strikings to bring Jack onto it, to mix into his shots, they were clean every time. Yeah. Every time. I think his only 2 takedowns, more or less, were from the open mat, drawing Jack into it, sort of thing. Now, why didn't we see more of that? You know, I can't help but feel like Belal was trying to make a point striking with Jack for the first 3 rounds.
He was, I think so.
And if that's the case, that is ridiculous.
Big mistake, right? Like,
yeah.